When I was in middle school, I was incredibly awkward, as most middle schoolers are. I was lanky, thin, and not unliked, but not popular. I was a tomboy, and I grew up to be a lesbian, and yes, this is an important detail. And I'm pretty sure half the school had figured my sexuality out before I did. So it came as a great shock to me and half the school when a boy did eventually ask me out. I had a crappy home life and was desperate for attention, so despite not really liking the guy at first, I said yes. My friends were happy for me for less than a week before my best friend, one of the prettiest girls in school, came up to me and told me that she had seen the guy skulking around the subway where we had eaten for lunch. I found this confusing and weird, but didn't really pay much mind to it. The next few outings, I did keep an eye out, and he did indeed follow me. Keep in mind, he's my boyfriend. We're literally dating. He doesn't have to act like this. He's not being shy and trying to ask me out. He's already done that. So why is he following me? I'm confused, but middle school me brushes it off thinking, all boys are like this. Maybe he's just jealous. His fears weren't entirely unfounded, I'll admit, as this other kid who I didn't know at all frequently liked to come up to me and say things like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but the condom broke last night. I think you're carrying my child." What the fuck? We never slept together. So I assume he's just following me because he's jealous. A week later, I'm done with this shit and confront him on this. He gives me the weakest excuse. I'm just protecting you. This is lame for several reasons. One, wouldn't it make sense to just come with me and not stalk me from a distance? Two, I'd once and very publicly punched a boy 2 years older than me in the face for grabbing my ass and refusing to let go until I hit him. I've made it clear I can look after myself. This doesn't sit right to me, but I tell him to knock it off and leave it at that. To make a long story short, he does not, and I dump his ass. A few days after the dumping, through gossip and my friends being concerned, I come to learn that not only did he stalk me while we dated, he did it before and after as well. He didn't take the breakup well, and his solution to cope was to draw these comics, I guess, where he was an alien prince rescuing me, a human princess from entire armies. It involved a lot of self-deprecation, both in and out of character, and disturbingly well-drawn gore, like disembodied heads of other boys in our class, ripped out intestines and such. I know this because I constantly found them in my locker. It got so bad, I actually brought it to school officials, and he had to move classes and a bunch of other stuff to keep him away from me. They wouldn't expel him since all they had was my word, but this was fine with me, as that felt a little extreme at that point. He had never hurt me before, and I honestly didn't think he would. How wrong I was. That was the end of it. Or so I thought. A year and a half later, we were graduated from middle school, and I thought I'd never see him again. Unfortunately, I was very mistaken. I'm second-generation French, and my parents felt it was important I keep in touch with my roots. This meant I went to the nearest French immersion high school, which was also the crazy guys assigned school. This wasn't a huge problem because it's a big school. The first year passes without any incidents. By mid-11th grade, however, almost all of my female friends have mentioned they think they are being followed. Sure enough, my one friend from the same middle school, Jillian, gets followed, and she confirms my suspicions. It's the stalker ex-boyfriend. At this point, I'm irritated and a little pissed off. It's been 2.5 years. Get over it, dude. Move on, and stop being the kind of person who follows my friends around the mall. Honestly, looking back, I wish I'd said something sooner. A day after Jillian confirmed that it's him, my other friend, let's call her Sarah, comes to school with her knuckles bruised and murder in her eyes. Sarah tells us that last night she'd woken in the middle of the night by the sound of her cat Ringo crying. Not just crying, but meowing and hissing like nuts right in her ear. Turns out Ringo had caught sight of the stalker on the balcony, staring into her window, and just standing there in the pouring rain. No umbrella, no hat, just standing there in a t-shirt and jeans soaking wet in the middle of an October night. Her knuckle was bruised because in seconds between waking up and seeing him, She jumped out of bed and out of pure fear and instinct had punched the window. It scared him off, but she wasn't going to just let him get away with this. She screams for her dad, and together they chase him like 4 blocks before losing him. They called the cops, but they didn't do much aside from saying, "Well, he's gone now. Call us if he turns back up." Obviously, she's livid. There's nothing we can do about it though at this point, except walk together and glare daggers at him whenever we see him. A week later, Jillian comes to school and informs us that he had skulked outside of the store she works at for her entire 6-hour shift the night before. This was the last straw for all of us. We all decided we'd confront him the next time we saw him as long as we weren't alone, because who knows what he would do if we were. The opportunity arises that very day. After school ended, we all gathered at the train station to head home. I'm on the platform with Jillian, Sarah, and my now ex-girlfriend Blake, and 2 male friends, one who's slightly autistic and one who's a tank of a guy, standing at 6'2" and with solid muscles. We'll call him Jake. Jillian catches sight of the stalker and points him out. I ask my friends to hang back while I confront him, but tell him to keep an eye on us. They reluctantly agree. Now at this point, I still think he's a harmless weirdo who just needs to get his head out of his ass before someone actually beats him for what he's doing. I walk up to him and tell him he needs to stop stalking me, stop stalking my friends, and never look at us again. I'm being firm but polite. His immediate reaction is to call me a disgusting dyke, yada yada yada, more homophobic slurs. You're going to hell, blah blah blah. Nothing I haven't heard a billion times before. I tell him once more to stop bothering me, stop following my friends, and learn some manners before I get the cops involved. He gets all tense and rigid, and I'm thinking, good, mentioning cops scares him. Except, he was not scared. Before I can really process what's happening, he's pushed me off a platform and in front of an oncoming train. I fell backwards and hit my head against the railing and was quite dazed. A few things happened all at once after that. Blake screamed so loud and with such fear in her voice that I can still hear it to this day almost 8 years later. My autistic friend, startled by the noise, runs the opposite way, screaming murder at the top of his lungs. Jake was moving before I had even fallen all the way. By now, I had started to recover from the daze, and I started getting to my knees just in time to see him plow into the guy like a linebacker. They both hit the ground. Jake started punching him in the face, and they're both yelling. Jillian and Sarah have run after my autistic friend towards the end of the platform and towards 2 police officers running onto the scene. Blake has caught up to us and is screaming my name and telling me to get up. The train horn is blaring, but I'm still a bit dazed, swaying in place and trying to figure a way back up onto the platform. I remember Blake grabbing for my hand despite being too far and too high up and sobbing and begging me to climb. Please, just climb. I'm not sure what it was, survival instinct, Blake's fear and pain, or the sheer desire to just get up and punch him for myself. But I do a really shitty run and jump at the edge of the platform. I hit it pretty hard and not high enough, just enough to win me though. Blake, Jake, and several other strangers all surge forward and grab me anywhere they can reach and pull me up just seconds before the train comes into the station. It's a serious blur after that. I remember Blake holding me and crying and rocking and touching me anywhere she can, my arms, my face, chest, legs, anywhere, as if to make sure I'm real. The other people on the platform were all on their phones calling 911 and offering help where they can. I think some of them were comforting my friends or others. There was a lot of shocked and crying people on that platform. By now, the 2 officers have arrived. One is doing damage control and talking to Jake. The other is checking on the would-be murderer and restraining him. Everyone gave their statements, paramedics arrive, and I'm taken to the hospital, and so is the stalker/would-be murderer. I remember Blake being glued to my side the whole day and night. I remember getting to the hospital and talking to cops and having a really big headache. I've either forgotten or blocked most of that out, to be honest. Eventually, I'm given my diagnosis, just a minor concussion. Then I was allowed to go home. The would-be murderer is carted off and most certainly going to jail. I know he's alive and going away for a very long time, and that's all I care about. Overall, the whole ordeal lasted around 4 years and seriously messed with far too many people's psyche and ability to feel safe. I spent another 6 months in and out of court, and the stalker finally ended up being sentenced to 8 years in prison. Luckily, he was almost 18, so he was tried as an adult and got a full sentence. My mental state got a little bit better since the whole incident, but I still wake up with nightmares and sometimes screaming. But the worst thing is, I turned 25 this year. That means that it's been almost 8 years since all of this happened, so he'll be getting out anytime soon, and I'm terrified he will come for his revenge.